Hello and welcome to Watch This Space. I'm Brian Carney with Rivada Networks, and my guest is Buddy Bayer, the Chief Operating Officer of Colt. Welcome to the show, Buddy.
Brian, thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, so tell us something about yourself and about what Colt does, and then we'll get into what Rivada and Colt are doing together. So tell us who you
Absolutely.
are and what you do.
Absolutely. I've been with Colt for a couple of years now. I've been in the industry, though, for about 30 years. Definitely a background in engineering and operations, and that's my focus for Colt, if you will. I have responsibility as the Chief Operating Officer for the operations and engineering globally, as well as our product architecture and AI platform launches. So the future of where we're heading, what we're doing today as well as the future. That's a important part of what we are and what we're doing. As far as Colt, though, we are a lot of people don't know about Colt, but we've been around for 30 years, and we are a global, and now it's really a global digital infrastructure service provider. We're doing a lot of things and next generation technology and capabilities, but what people don't realize is how big our network is. We operate in 40 different countries today. We have a large presence in Europe, large presence in Asia, and a large presence in North America primarily. We do have subsea systems that we own and operate. And we have, in fact, in Europe, we have the largest fiber network in Europe. We recently, a couple of years ago, did an acquisition that doubled our size as far as fiber inventory is concerned. So we're now considered the largest business to business operator in Europe. So all the countries we're in, all the fiber that we have inside of those countries, we have a pretty massive footprint, if you will. And of course, once again, service-wise, we offer typical traditional underlay services, optical IP, but we're also advancing ourselves in this digital infrastructure play. So we build fiber, we provide fiber for a lot of the AI movement that's taken place, but we're also looking at applications, overlay type services on the security side, or secured access, secure edge, SASE play, if you will. So we're doing a lot on that front as well, on offering a differentiated capability. So we have a lot in our portfolio. We have a huge network that we operate, terrestrial, subsea, and low Earth orbit. So we kind of cover all different spectrums, if you will, in that regard. So you're definitely, Rivada's a big partner of ours in that exploration.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about who your customers are, if you could, because one of the things that we find at Rivada is, when we say, oh, we're putting up communication satellites, that people assume that means they're. In fact, I got a phone call the other day from somebody down in Texas who wanted to sign up for our service because he had bad coverage in his barn out, and he said he was out in the sticks in the panhandle or something.
Yeah,
And I said, well, that's not what we do, right? We're a business to business satellite communications thing. We're not going to provide satellite. That's not one of our products. So, but I think even with fiber, right? People have fiber to the home and they think fiber is home internet, but of course it's much bigger than that. And when you say a lot of people don't realize how big Colt is, um, that's because Colt is not, a consumer-facing company. If
that's
I'm,
right.
tell me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding. And so, who are your customers in broad strokes, right? And who are the
Yeah.
people buying these services? Because I think, the not to call it the dark underbelly, but the sort of, the inner workings of the internet and connectivity is a thing that I think is pretty mysterious to a lot of people.
It is. Yeah, I agree totally with your comments there. It is part of the reason it seems like we're stealthy is because we're behind the scenes. Now, if you look at the Fortune, I'll call it 1,000 or 2,000 customer base or enterprise, that's a little bit of our customer base. So we cater to, the financial verticals. We cater to the health verticals. We cater to the retail verticals. We also have a whole area and focus around the hyperscalers, the cloud providers. So we cater to what's going on in that arena and helping them with their infrastructure. We have wholesale arrangements, other service providers who are trying to operate in areas that we have a large footprint or we have a large presence, they leverage us, they use us. So, it's kind of an enterprise wholesale, a hyperscaler content provider kind of mix for us as far as our customer base is concerned. My kids always ask me the same thing because I'm not, like you said, I'm not residential facing, I'm not consumer facing. So my kids will ask me, what do you do? Who do you work for? I just tell them we help build the internet and all the capabilities that you love and do with your social media and your games and everything else. We're part of that backbone. That's the simple way for me to explain it to them. But we're very
Yeah.
much behind the scenes, yeah, helping evolve, communication for the future.
And so where does satellite fit into that, right? I think, you mentioned fiber and, obviously, the broad interconnected web that we call, the internet is primarily held together with with fiber and, those ultra high speed connections. But where does satellite fit in from Colt's perspective? What is the Rivada Colt connection here?
Yeah,
I know we have an MOU to provide service to you guys when we turn on service. But from Colt's perspective, how does this work? How does this complement what you're doing?
I will start by kind of giving that explanation of that digital infrastructure change that's taken place, or kind of the push. One of the things
Please.
that we're seeing is, as more AI and quantum come into play, it's an evolution in our space. I always got kind of go back to, even it's very cyclical in our industry, but if you go back to the early 2000s, you saw the internet coming on, but people were trying to figure out how to monetize it. And then when mobility came really strong in 2008, you saw mobility married up with the internet. It changed our lives. How we do things, how we operate is totally different now because of those two things coming together. We're kind of in that state again where you have AI and people are trying to figure out how to monetize AI and the importance of AI. Quantum's coming, and you marry those two things up, and then it's once again going to change our lives even exponentially than what we saw in the early 2000s. So
Yeah, wow.
part of that change coming is there's a heavy reliance on security, diversity, reliability, intent-based networking. People are want to route around sovereign routing. They want to route around diversity routing. They have maybe environmental things that they're thinking about and how they want to route their traffic. So there's different demand sets coming with this next generation of capabilities that are happening. And so for us, it's great to have fiber in the terrestrial piece and the subsea piece. That's a very important part to the puzzle. But we see low Earth orbit. We see the satellite space as another key area, especially with Rivada, what you guys are doing. You're uniquely positioning yourselves, the whole satellite to satellite linkage and keeping, a lot of the stuff up at that orbit center. This outer net kind of concept that you have, I think
Yeah.
really brings a different level of latency. It differentiates, it brings some security capability. So these are the things that are important in this network, in this infrastructure that we're helping build for the future. Latency, security, these are all important things and factors. And then once again, it's a diverse way of providing service capability. So that diversity is a super important play. You look at a financial or even a healthcare, they care about having diversity. There's real time applications that are needed. One is a healthcare provider I know that's doing customized medicine, in their
Okay.
research facility and using and leveraging AI capabilities and tools and the large language models. They're leveraging all that right now to do custom medicine for people. And they can't have any interruption. So availability has to be as close as possible to 100% right now.
Right.
So if you think about that, that means they need many forms, physical forms of connectivity. They need high levels of reliability. They need low levels of latency. They need high levels of security because what they're doing is, next generation type research. But you see
Right.
the value of what we're putting together in our partnership for those end customers and how they're changing lives for tomorrow.
Right. Because any one, you know, you probably know the technical terms better than I do, right? But any one kind of connectivity modality, whether it's fiber or LEO, right, is less resilient than the combination of a portfolio of them. So,
That's
you know,
correct. It's physics. It's physics. The more connections you have, the higher the reliability that comes into play. So there is a application to this. So having diversity like a satellite constellation you can leverage and use creates an increased level of reliability, security, improved latency. So I think it complements once again what we're trying to do and how we're trying to serve our customer base.
right. One of the things, as I understand it, that Colt does for its customers is, I don't know if this is the term you use, but it's essentially, networking as a service, right? So rather than specifying, you know, those particular modalities, a customer can, focus on kind of their end result that they're trying to achieve in terms of that connectivity. And you guys worry about what goes on behind the scenes to make sure that they get that connection, right? So,
That's right.
seen from that perspective, you know, adding the Outernet to your portfolio for those end customers allows you in a different way to sort of to serve them. And I sometimes say sort of hide all the seams, right? So
Yeah,
they don't worry about how it's getting there, whether it's going up or down or under or over, right? You guys just want to make sure your customers get their data to and from where they need to get it when they need to
that's
get
right.
it there. And
There's That's a great point. You can use the financial markets, for instance, some of those customer base. Um, they like the concept of self-healing. And in what you just described as NAS, we call it, but network as a service type of platforms, that's digital infrastructure that basically says, I've got some terrestrial fiber routes. I maybe have some constellation satellite routes. I might have a 5G route. I may have, different types of access methods, and we can maintain service quality via all those different access methods. And once again, to your point, it's seamless to that end customer. They just see constant availability, but the behind the scenes solution and us being able to switch traffic and leverage different types of access methods really helps us create that experience. But then there's the flip side. We have customers in that same type of a portal that I'll go back to. They have intent-based networking. Like they want certain routes, they want certain applications, they want certain diversity, they maybe want certain sovereign nation routing, they may want certain other types. We can give that to them as well. We can allow them to pick and choose. So they might pick, I want this service to go via satellite, I want this service to go via
right.
fiber, so we can give them optionality as well. So you have different levels of capability inside of those network as a service products.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Different customers have different priorities. We see that in satellite too, where some people say latency is everything, right? Depending on their application. Some people are more worried about, say, price or about consistency of throughput or, and you have to be able to tailor those things to the use cases because not everybody needs the same thing. And the sovereign piece is a big piece too. One of the things that we hear from our customers about the Outernet is that it's a way of making sure that their data doesn't pass through unwanted jurisdictions en route, right? Put it
Exactly.
in space. You still have to start it and end it somewhere, but it's not accidentally passing through someplace you don't want it to in the middle because you didn't know where your data went. And
That's right.
I know you guys excel at helping your customers do what they need to do, and this is just another piece of that. But
That's right.
different
Yeah,
customers have different needs.
being a global provider, as you can imagine, we get a lot of global customers. They operate
Right.
in many countries. And so there's moments where there's geopolitical things going on in the world, and they're like, "Hey, I would like to reroute my traffic away from that right now."
Yeah.
And so just having that type of flexibility and capability, using once again this concept that you guys are building, The outer network is another opportunity for us to route things around hotspots. That's an important thing for a lot of our customers. So, it's if you think about, I always think of AI. What it really does is it allows us to have more bespoke or custom solutions. It just makes it easy to do that kind of stuff. So as we add things, into the toolkit, as we add new networks and capabilities like the outer network, it just, when you marry it up with AI and the power of it, it just makes, like I said, customization easier to do. We actually have a vision statement here that we want to be the easy button for digital infrastructure. Like we literally can see how that's a great application, a possibility, and a need in the space right now.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So we're here talking. It's early in 2026. I don't know where you are in the world. Thanks to the marvels of the internet, of course, we're doing this remotely. I'm in the Northeast U.S. where it is extremely cold, but looking forward to warmer weather and also to the rest of this year. And I'm just wondering, you've mentioned AI, you've mentioned an uncertain world out there. Looking forward across this year, what do you see as big trends for the industry that we're both in, that you're watching as a company, and that our viewers, ought to keep an eye on, and what's coming next down the road?
Yeah, the we do some inquiries. We ourselves go out to about 1,500 CIOs in the space, customer base of ours, if you will, and we ask them for, what they're working on, what their trend sets are, and a couple things definitely come out of that study for us is, one, AI adoption is really picking up. We're finding that 1 out of 5 that we ask are investing close to $1 billion. I mean, it's about 750,000 on average. That or 750 thousand, almost a million. I'm sorry, I had my numbers wrong there. Upon which they're investing right now just to get things going, get things started. But only 5% of them are starting to see return on that investment. So the base is starting to invest more in AI, but the returns for that investment aren't clearly, understood yet. So the move's still happening, the growth is still taking place. The needs and the demand sets are definitely trending in the right direction. I think what you'll see over the next couple of years is the trend set of monetizing it and creating more capabilities to recognize a revenue stream. No different than if you remember in the early 2000s when the internet came out, everybody was trying to do I'm going to create a website and sell my product. And they were trying to figure out how to monetize the internet, right? We're in that same space where people are trying to figure out how to monetize AI. It'll come. We'll have that, once again, mobility or quantum capability that'll help people, I think, monetize it faster. So AI adoption is really on the increase. We're seeing it grow quite dramatically right now. The other area that's
Yeah.
pretty relevant for us is security. Security, is a booming market. I absolutely, from even our product capabilities and how we're evolving, security is going to be threaded through everything we do. I look at the optical layer of selling. It used to be you sell pipes or wavelengths or whatever the type of circuit is. You would sell connectivity from point A to point Z. And now what we're seeing is you can't just sell pipes. You need to interlace it with encryption and security, and it needs to be, they call it quantum safe because, the whole idea is when quantum computing comes on mainstream, even on the dark web, that they can break all encryption codes. So everything we offer, whether it's optical or IP, or it needs to be quantum safe. And so security measures across the board in all product sets and capabilities, whether it's us helping people with firewalls, if it's us helping them secure their edge with zero trust, if it's us helping them create security encryption on their underlay services, we're seeing that as a thread and a theme throughout everything we do. And that's the feedback we're getting, is that's becoming more and more important to our base out there. A unique one that I'm seeing, this is an interesting one, is, the whole COVID cycle that occurred. We saw everybody kind of work remotely, and it changed the
Right.
dynamic in the enterprise space. Some of the stats I just saw recently, trend set wise, is return to work policies
Okay.
and programs are kind of coming into play, and hybrid policies are coming into play. And I saw out of the Fortune 100 companies out there, over 50% have returned fully to work. And then I also saw that 61% of all enterprise has adopted a hybrid return to work policy, meaning maybe a day or out of the week or 2 days out of the week or some type of hybrid setup they're adopting. So there's a little bit of a swing in the pendulum where when everybody can work remote, you can be wherever you want to be to, hey, we need you in the office a little bit so we can get some value out of that face-to-face time application. That's kind of changing the demand set. I saw the CAGR for enterprise services increasing by a little over 7% over the next 5 years because of this kind of trend set that's taken place. So that's a good
CAGR,
sign.
sorry, compound annual growth rate, is that
Yes,
CAGR?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, think of
sorry.
it. Yeah, exactly. Think of it as your annual growth rate. So we're seeing over a 7% growth rate occurring on the enterprise space just because of a change in policy of, in the work environment. So that kind of trend set's important for us to understand because the demand sets have changed. What they needed in the enterprise space, 6, 7 years ago is a little bit different than what they need today. So we can
Right.
evolve our product sets to meet that. But it does once again, like you're saying, Brian, it creates a trend set for us to watch because it's an opportunity for us to serve.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So the return to work, return to office kind of movement is changing the traffic patterns effectively, and AI also is. Can you say anything about how AI is changing global data traffic patterns? I don't know if that's even a question that makes sense, but I imagine it's having a huge influence on
It's
the
massive.
needs as well as the patterns. And
Yeah.
is there a way that we can understand how that, what that looks like to you guys as infrastructure
Yeah, it's
providers?
it's huge. I mean, I'll give you, kind of the ground level of, digging trenches and putting fiber in the ground. It used to be customers would come to us and ask for, hey, I need a pair of fibers or I need 12 pairs of fibers. Now we're seeing, hey, I need 432 pairs of fibers. I need, 864 count fibers. They need big pipes, a lot of fiber. And a lot of that is the large language models that are being established and built, these big data center communities and farms that are being established or
Right.
campuses, they're just needing a ton of infrastructure to support them. Now, most of the large language models are built in the US, and we're seeing a ton of that fiber and intense fiber capacity demand happening in the US. But you're starting to see some of the plans for large language models to occur in other areas. Europe, for instance, there's in the next couple of years, there's going to probably be some large language centers being established in Europe, and that big, large infrastructure play is going to grow. Like I said, we're providing fiber, we're providing bulk fiber in some cases already in Europe, but as AI comes in and expands, you're not pumping that information back across subsea systems back into the US. You've got your own concentration center there. So we're seeing those demands shift as the large language models are being deployed. That's kind of the beginning state. You see that impact that's occurring. And that what we're seeing now is a trend set towards the edge. So you've got your typical 5 or 6 big customers, your Googles, your Amazons, your Microsofts, that are building these large language models and kind of creating this AI environment. But you're also seeing the next kind of generation of users and enablers coming on the scene. There's, probably about 150 of them that are taking off right now. You got the core weaves and Akamai's and there's different
Right.
another level of customers that have needs and demands, and those are a little bit more towards the edge. They're not concentrated where these large language models are. They're a little bit pushing to the edge in other locations. So what we're seeing is this massive concentration in these large language centers and these models. But now, as AI applications are starting to become more evident, people are monetizing, the edge play is growing. So fiber in the edge or going to places maybe where you don't have fiber, new construction, new builds. That's a big play for us, and that's an opportunity for
Yeah.
us. And even lit services, even products that we sell across our fiber, we're seeing demand sets for that on the edge play. So I see a trend where you got this heavy core that's being built right now, but we're starting to see a trend set where we're seeing more and more demand on the edge, and the edge play is going to get more and more important as we advance and we see more applications and more monetization of AI. The other play besides infrastructure is it, it creates an opportunity, kind of going back to the healthcare provider, that example I was using where you're creating customized medicine. One of the things that's really important to them is they need their research and development. Might be, they're in one country and their R&D's in another country, and any type of latency or interruption can disrupt their R&D, which can cause them to have to restart some of their programs. So
Right.
they're going to like this concept of inference, where it's bringing small language models closer to their facilities, still tapping into the resources of the large language model. So they're pulling data, they're pulling insights from these big institutions, but they're bringing it closer once again to their facilities, upon which they can have shorter distance and response time to leverage that information and that insight. So it gives them capabilities to move faster. So you can think of autonomous vehicles, you can think of research and development, you can see a need for more capacity and capability on the edge to support those types of functions and capabilities that are needing low latency, quick response. All that's really important to advancing those capabilities. So we're seeing that trend set. We're seeing the infrastructure play. We're seeing our opportunities on the security front once again. So a lot of trend sets are taking place, but we're seeing that as an evolution. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's changing, and in every area is changing a little different. The growth rates and things we see in the U.S. is a little different than what we see in Europe, and it's a little different than what we see in Asia. So different trend sets right now.
Yeah, that's totally fascinating. And as you said, the overarching theme that I hear you saying is that there's a lot of growth and that there's a lot of demand, and those things aren't going anywhere. That just continuing to increase. And at Rivada, I know that we're happy to be joining forces with you guys to provide your customers with the Outernet as an option for connectivity for those who need that security and that low latency global connectivity. And listen, buddy, it's been great talking to you. We've been going for almost half an hour here, believe it or not, and so we try to keep these things digestible. So I'm gonna wrap us up here. And if you have anything else, that you want to add, I'm happy to hear it. Otherwise, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate the relationship that our two companies are building.
Likewise, Brian, thank you for the invite and the chance to tell a little bit of our story. Once again, for those that are listening to the podcast, Colt's absolutely the easy button in helping create these digital solutions. So think of us that way. We want to be a partner with Rivada. What you guys are doing, I think, is incredible. I think it's going to be another, like you said, another facet to this large infrastructure that's going to take us forward and change our lives. All of us that are listening, it's going to change our lives. So having a part to play and having a chance to be part of that solution, I think for us, Brian, is super fun. So thank you again for the opportunity just to share a little bit of the story.
Well, thank you. I'll also mention, I don't know if it will be out, but I know that our two companies are working on a white paper. Hopefully, if it's not out when we put this video up, it'll be up soon, and we'll add it to the link when it's available. I hope I'm not telling tales out of school, but I know we've been working on that thing back and forth amongst us to talk about some of these same issues. And people who want to dive deeper, I encourage them to go seek that out. So again, thank you, buddy, and thank you guys for working with us. I hope it's a long and fruitful relationship.
Likewise. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks. This has been Watch This Space. I'm Brian Carney with Rivada Networks. Thank you for watching and listening. Take care.